our viewers in the United States and around the world, and welcome to Inside Politics. I'm John King in Washington. Thank you for sharing your day with us. The Biden COVID response team just wrapped a new briefing. New infections, hospitalizations, and deaths all trending down, and significantly so. But supply issues and now punishing winter weather are complicating the urgent goal of accelerating the COVID vaccine rollout.
The weather's having an impact. It's having an impact on distribution and deliveries. There's certain parts of the country, Texas being one of them, where vaccination sites are understandably closed.
Getting more COVID vaccine shots into arms ASAP is just one of many important promises the new president made at a CNN town hall last night. Go big on stimulus was the Biden mantra. Yes to supporting a $15 minimum wage, but the new president says he's open to listening to small business worries. No to defunding the police, and no to telling his Justice Department who it should and should not prosecute. Yes, the president says, to a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants. 4 weeks in, last night was a telling look at the new president's communication style. Not long before Joe Biden took the Milwaukee stage, his bellicose predecessor unleashed a trademark rant insulting the Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell as weak and as inept. Biden made clear that to him, Trump is he who shall not be named, and definitely he who must not be emulated. Decency and respect are back in the West Wing, back in West Wing style, the new president promised, and he drew approval from the audience when he said the American people deserve more attention than their president. Goal one of the town hall was to sell his big COVID relief package. The president repeatedly touted its pieces: unemployment aid, small business help, grace for those behind on their rent or their mortgage. But it was noteworthy that he rarely made specific appeals for votes in Congress or for Americans to pick up the phone or get on email and nudge their lawmakers. The president's empathy took center stage, including when he calmed the nerves of an adorable 8-year-old girl worried about the virus. Calming a nation on edge is now part of his big first test. And last night, the president gave new benchmarks on 3 pressing pandemic questions.
By the end of July, we'll have over 600 million doses, enough to vaccinate every single American.
So when do you think that would be K through 8, at least 5 days a week, if possible?
I think we'll be close to that at the end of the first 100 days. A year from now, I think that there'll be significantly fewer people having to be socially distanced, have to wear masks, etc. But we don't know. So I don't want to overpromise anything here.
You heard the president right there, says he doesn't want to overpromise, but he is a bit more optimistic because the numbers are getting better with some important caveats. Let's walk through some of the numbers. Number one, you look at the state-by-state trend. We talked for months about how orange and red were horrible. Well, green is good. Green means trending in the right direction. 45 states now trending down. Fewer COVID infections now compared to the data 1 week ago. Green is what you want on this map. 45 states heading down. 2 steady. 3 heading in the wrong direction. Forgive me for tapping on that there. You come across here now and you look at this. This red line diving down. That is exactly what you want. Again, diving from a horrific starting point of way up here, the winter peak, but coming down now. 62,398 new infections reported across the United States yesterday. You see it up at the top. 5 straight days now, 5 straight days of being below 100,000 new infections. The case count heading in the right direction. When the case count heads down, hospitalizations head down. It's a lagging indicator, but finally, the death trend also trending down. 1,756 Americans dying of COVID yesterday. Every one of them one too many. But you see from 3,000 and 4,000, finally, this number starting to head in the right direction. The challenge is to keep it going that way. This still, it is numbing to see. We ended yesterday at 488,000 American deaths, 500,000 in the not too distant future. Think about that. That's Raleigh, North Carolina. Kansas City, Missouri, wiped out by the COVID pandemic. Horrific, even as the numbers continue to get a little bit better now. If you look at the vaccine map right now, this is the percentages you see here, is the percent of the population that is fully vaccinated. Remember, it takes 2 doses of the vaccine to be fully vaccinated. 71, almost 72 million doses distributed, 55.2 million administered. You see Alaska, 8.3% fully vaccinated. West Virginia, 8% fully vaccinated. Most states in the 3 and 4%, some pushing up toward 5 and 6 as we watch the vaccine rollout play out. This is incredible. And if you look at the pace of it, the Biden team is making progress, no doubt. Is it enough? The public health experts have a debate. But if you go back to beginning of January, when the president took office, it was about 900,000 doses a day. They are now past 1.7 million daily doses here in the United States. But if you listen to the experts, one thing they're cautious about right now is they say, yes, this number is getting better. More Americans are getting a vaccine, or no, they will get one in the days and weeks. For some, still a couple months ahead. Dr. Walensky, the head of the CDC, saying, do not bet on a vaccine to keep driving the case count down. Wear your mask and keep your distance.
We're not at the place where we believe that the current level of vaccination is what is driving down the current level of disease. We believe that much of the surge of disease happened related to the holidays, related to travel. If you're relying on our current level of vaccination, rather than the other mitigation efforts to get us to remain low, that we shouldn't rest in that comfort.
One thing to come out of that new COVID briefing from the Biden team is a new big investment in testing. Let's bring in our CNN senior medical correspondent, Elizabeth Cohen, for the details. Elizabeth, walk us through it.
John, this money really will hopefully make a difference in two different ways. The Biden administration saying that they are giving hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars for two different kinds of testing. And we want to talk about these separately so we don't confuse them. So the first kind of testing is the COVID testing that we've all known. I would say know and love, but that's probably too strong, that we've all known for the better part of a year now. And that is to tell you whether or not you have COVID or not. So $650 million to schools and underserved population to improve testing there, and $800 million about for manufacturing and supplies of these tests. And then there's the second kind of testing, and that is, once you know you have COVID, do you have one of these new variants, or do you have sort of the older type of COVID? Do you have a variant, or do you not have a variant? And that's about $200 million. And here's why they're doing this. Let's take a look at where we are right now with genomic testing. Right now, the U.S. ranks 33rd in the world in the amount of genomic testing that we're doing. With genomic testing, you want to do as much as pretty much as much as you can. And we rank 33rd. We rank behind Rwanda, Uganda, Sierra Leone, places with far fewer resources, and there is no reason for that. So hopefully this $200 million will work. And the hope is that instead of doing about 7,000 genomic sequencing samples a week in the U.S., it'll get up to something like 25,000. John?
Well, let's just hope. Just to see that graphic is stunning. Why is the United States of America so far behind on these important testing? Elizabeth Cohen, grateful for the reporting and important insights. The top White House goal for last night's CNN town hall was turning questions from everyday Americans into answers that made the case for the president's big coronavirus relief package. But it took 23 minutes for the president to specifically mention the legislation.
It is estimated that if we pass this bill alone, we'll create 7 million jobs this year. Look at all the people. You have over 10 million people unemployed. We need unemployment insurance. We need to make sure that, you have 40% of the children in America talk about food shortages.
With us to share her reporting and her insights, our chief political correspondent, Dana Bash. It was interesting, fascinating to watch. It's a new president. It's the first time he's gone out in the country, first official trip as president, completely different from his predecessor in how he communicates. And it was interesting to watch. I took note that he didn't specifically mention the bill until Anderson asked him about it, 23 minutes in. I found that odd because I remember Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, you go on the road and you're asking people, call your congressman. I need Congress to do this. Biden, the longtime senator, that seems an afterthought to him, more like, I'm going to do that on the phone with senators. My deal here is to talk to you.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not as if his administration, his top aides, and he didn't want to sell it, but he clearly went out with a goal, first and foremost, to connect to the people he was talking to and to genuinely answer the questions that they have. I mean, one woman asked a question about her personal story, and in classic Biden form, he started to answer and then said, "I'll see you afterwards. I'm going to see if I can help you." I mean, that is constituent services, but Senator Biden style, which is now carrying on to President Biden style. But, you're absolutely right that it is noteworthy that he didn't hit people over the head with the sales pitch for the legislation. I think that's also in large part because it's quite delicate right now within the Democratic Party. He's not, I mean, certainly he would love to get Republican votes, but they're not banking on it by any stretch of the imagination. Now it's about negotiations with moderate Democrats, mostly in the Senate, and progressive Democrats, mostly in the House.
I want to come back to some of the details on that, the internal Democratic maneuvering he has to do. But the biggest question out there in America, one of the biggest questions out there in America, certainly a question we could say comes up at this table, is when can my kids go back to school? When will it be safe to kids to go back to school fully? The president made his case last night, and the vice president this morning trying to echo that.
But if they're not vaccinated, is it safe for them?
Well, I think that we have to decide if we can put in place safe measures. This is why, and it's so important, we pass the American Rescue Plan. Why does this connect with what we're talking about right now? It's going to be safer for our schools to reopen when we can get our schools the infrastructure needs, like helping them with their ventilation systems, helping them create social distancing with barriers.